Here's the rainbow blend: fuchsia, cadmium yellow, and turquoise. When they get blended together, you'll have the entire rainbow. Whoa! Whoops. Okay, so I roll each one out to 14 inches long. Sorry, it's not metric, but if you use metric, you're smart enough to adjust. I apologize. Okay, so the fuchsia is cut in half because I want it on both sides. But now that it is cut in half, the log won't be thick enough, so I have to flatten it out a bit. So there I'm squishing it up against the side. This doesn't have to be perfect. Hand rolling is good. It helps later on. There I am flattening it, putting it up next to the turquoise. Because later when the blends are stacked, it makes the complete rainbow to have fuchsia on each side. So I'll flatten out the whole thing. It wasn't actually, I take that back, 12 inches, because now when I'm flattening it, ultimately it will be about 14 inches long. So flattening it stretches it out. I want it to be 1 inch wide. This is my template based on my pasta machine. My pasta machine is 5 inches wide. I want 5 sections of rainbow. And so they are each about 1 inch wide. This is how they look on the template. Oops, I flip-flopped those, but it'll work out just fine because I slice those up, you'll see. Important thing is they're stair-stepped. Actually, you could do this with any amount, any number, just as long as it's a stair-step. It'll also depend on your pasta machine. You do want it to almost fill side to side the pasta machine. Or you can do that little trick of sticking a block of clay in one side, but it'll get distorted if it doesn't fit the pasta machine well. And carefully fold it over, make sure all the things are squished together. It doesn't quite fit side to side yet, but it will. Won't make too big of a difference. Again, that rainbow will work out. It'll do the fuchsia, orange, yellow, green, purple fuchsia. Or at least close enough. Each time I'm doing this, I'm taking time and folding it in half. I just took those parts out of the video because that's boring. So now I'm just pulling the sides apart, because if you don't do that, somehow in the center always makes this peak. And this blend is very important to keep the lines even and parallel. So each time I fold it, I stretch out the sides again. It's hard to keep it a rectangle, but you can force it into a rectangle. Hi, Mom. Do you see her feet? She's walking by. This is what I've done each time before rolling it through the pasta machine. See how the lines need to stay parallel? They will match the lines underneath. So match up the colors each time, no matter what kind of, you kind of have to force the clay or really stretch it if it got distorted going through, but fix it each time. Align the colors. The rainbow to the far left should be nice and dark. The rainbow to the far right will start being light colored. Now I fold the whole thing in half because I want the resulting block to be thick. I could have sliced and stacked them. That might have worked for this one, but in general I like to have a blend that is thick, and it's easier to slice this way too. So I find the place right where I think the first white block is mixed in. So it'll be... Then I'll stack. I have to line up the colors. Be very careful to line up the colors. Look, oops, I have to flip it because it was end to end, but it doesn't matter. It probably would have been better if I didn't do it that way, but it's okay. Important part is all the colors are lined up. See what a nice green that made? Lining up the colors. Look at all the ends. Where you cut that matters a lot. You'll see I didn't do this perfectly, but it turns out beautiful anyway. See, there you can see them all lined up. It's getting lighter and lighter. Now at this point you can do whatever you want with the blend. It can be short and fat or long and skinny. You can reduce this just as if it were a cane. The ends, the sides don't look blended as perfectly, but anywhere in the middle should be blended nicely. Reduce it, cut it into 4 sections. This is if you specifically want to make the crazy quilt. Each one of those 4 sections, I already did it with that one triangle before. I messed up, so I wanted to show you with this one. Each one of the 4 sections will get cut into 3 more sections. There you see how it goes dark, light, dark, light. Now these should be, you could do this prior, make the entire blend flatter, but we're going to squish them all together. So they have to be cut into 3 pieces in order to go end to end like this. Again, the lights are touching and then the darks are touching. One side is dark, one side is light. And then the entire thing squishes up. You see me do this a lot in many of my tutorials. Take a square and squish it up into a right triangle. The bottom spreads out, and the top, which is now the corner, makes a sharp corner. So you need 3 sharp corners, 3 flat sides. But the corner where they all, or the point at which they all come together, that ends up being a right angle. And the way you do, it's hard to make that sometimes. You just kind of have to force it eventually. You'll get the hang of it. But the idea is that, let's see if I show it well here. See, that has to come straight up off the table. That makes it a right angle. You could also use a paper or a book or something to measure that it makes a right angle. Normally I would do this once and cut it into 4 sections, but since it's color dependent, I have to repeat the process 4 times. I may have not done it the same for each one. What I wanted is kind of this radiating pattern of lights and darks. So you can see I didn't even do both triangles the same way, but it doesn't matter. The important thing is that like I said, the light and dark radiates from the center. Unless of course you're picky and you can make that be as many rays as you want in whatever pattern you want. So now we'll see what it looks like. You can see how variations in the rainbow, the way they weren't stacked perfectly, makes these different sections quite interesting. Now, this was originally made, I have a crazy quilt cane that I was just playing around with. I wanted to see what would happen. So this is how to make the cane for that. But there are so many, at this point, there are so many things you could do with these little squares. You could reduce them quite a bit more. Or you can slice them into all kinds of different ways. There's another video that I'll post on Patreon that shows how to make them into kaleidoscopes. Or you could leave them like that. All kinds of ideas.